Welcome back as I continue to do this journey of watching every single Simpsons Halloween special up until Halloween. I don't know if I am going to make it past five. I'm just going to be honest because, oh my god, it gets bad from here. Honestly, not that bad, but this is actually a really solid follow up for the first. And then this one is still called the Halloween special. I don't think they adopt the Treehouse of Horror till I think maybe the fourth or fifth one. But in this one, our wraparound segment is focused on the kids coming back from trick or treating, and they're eating a whole bunch of candy along with Homer. Marge tells them, "You eat too much sugar, you're gonna have nightmares." And this is the only one in the franchise that doesn't really have the names, the titles at the beginning of the dreams. All these are nightmares. They're all nightmares. So we start off with Lisa's nightmare and hers. And the first one is the monkey's paw. The family goes out to a trip out in Morocco. Homer goes off on his own, finds a merchant, buys the monkey's paw. The merchant says, "You buy this, every wish that you're gonna have great misfortune." The family has different ideas on what they want to do. Bart wants X-ray specs. Lisa wants world peace. Homer doesn't know what to do yet. But Maggie does the first wish and she gets a brand new pacifier. Bart gets the paw and says, "I want money and fame," and they become. And it's interesting that people always want to say they predicted. They like the Simpsons predicts the future. Well, they predicted their own future in this one with Bart's wish because they became a parody and a shell of their former selves within that wish. Because nowadays I can't stand the fucking Simpsons. I'm with everyone in Springfield. I can't stand them. Lisa wishes for world peace. Katos and Crane showed up and take over the world. Homer gets the paw and says, "I want a turkey sandwich." The turkey is dry. He hands off the monkey's paw over to Ned, hoping Ned will get some great misfortune. But no, nothing bad happened. And I have a theory that I wonder that if because the Simpsons weren't pure and they weren't innocent, which is why they suffered great misfortunes within their wishes. Which is Ned. He's a God fearing man and a very loyal man and an innocent man, and that's why I don't think anything ever bad happened to him when he wished for his wishes with the monkey's paw. This is actually a really solid one. Lisa wakes up screaming and then goes in, and then we go into Bart's night, which is the Bart zone. And this one is where Bart can read everybody's mind, and everyone is afraid of Bart. And if they cross Bart, they're just like, "You're done. You're done. You're gonna turn into Homer right here." You know. So Homer is watching the football game. He's gonna win some money. Bart says, "I want to watch Krusty." Homer says, "No." And then Bart turns Homer into a football. He hits the goalpost. Homer comes back from injury. He's gonna fucking bash Bart's fucking brains in. Bart hears this, turns him into a Jack in the Box. And the whole rub of this is it's actually a really endearing nightmare, endearing dream because Bart and Homer actually become close, and that's something that Bart can't handle. Bart doesn't want to be close to Homer. He wakes up screaming as soon as they hug and kiss. It's like, fuck that. I don't want to do that. And the last one is quote unquote Homer's nightmare. Now, we never really see Homer go into the dream because when pay attention, you watch the cuts, they're like dissolves. But with Homer's dream, it's a hard cut into the next frame, which is supposed to signify that this is actually happening. This isn't a nightmare. This actually happened. Homer is tired, and Smithers and Burns, they're just like, "You know what? Let's fire someone." Homer's on the chopping block. He gets fired. He gets hired as a gravedigger. Burns and Smithers are trying to figure out how to create this machine and make the perfect worker so they don't have to pay anyone. They find Homer in an open grave, take Homer out, cut open his brain, put it in the robot, and then they find out, like, God damn it, we fucked up. Burns puts his brain back into Homer. And yeah, man, I think. And at the end, we get this because the fucking robot falls on Burns and Smithers puts Burns' head onto Homer's shoulder. Now, as a kid, when they said next week on The Simpsons, and we see this, I was actually expecting and I was believing, and I actually believed that we were going to see this episode the following week. But no, the next episode was the Three Eye Fish. And I was kind of disappointed that we didn't get to see something. I really wished in the Treehouse episodes they did sequels to earlier episodes because I think that would have been interesting, especially for this one. I would have loved to see how this dynamic would have played out. Part two actually is a really solid follow up. It is not as nearly as gnarly, it's not as violent, and it's not as creepy or as scary as the first one. This one actually has a lot of comedic elements to really offset the horror within these segments. And I don't think that this one is actually a really lighthearted entry into the franchise. Like the second one's actually lighthearted, is not as crazy as some of the other ones. And I feel because at the time they got a lot of backlash off that first one because that first one was really creepy, especially for kids. This one is not as creepy, but as we start to see, we're starting to see a theme because they're starting to pull their punches just a little bit, you know. So in the third one, we're gonna see what happens. Like I know what happens, but I'm gonna tell you what happens. But yeah, I think this was an okay follow up to what was a classic and an amazing Halloween special. I don't think I think every segment was okay, but I don't think they were up to the level and the standard of the first one. If that makes sense, like the horror wasn't there, the creepy factor wasn't there. They were just Simpsons in a horror situation that happened to be in a comedy.